Hello there folks, I'm the Lon Chaney Reviewer, and welcome to Silent Links, the series where I analyze the films of filmmakers and actors who were once famous in the silent era, but must now deal with the mysterious new challenge of talkies. Today's episode, I shall be discussing the 1934 Alexander Korda production, The Private Life of Don Juan, starring Douglas Fairbanks Sr. The film itself stars Douglas Fairbanks Sr. as the aging Don Juan, who must now deal not only with the problems of getting older, but the fact that he is financially broke. The only woman that he does not want is willing to pay off all of his debt, and everyone else wants him for a purpose. And, to top it all off, somebody else is impersonating him in this film. The film begins where I think it should begin. It takes place in Spain. There are women who have to deal with their ever so dull husbands who all they do is care about business and work. And a mysterious figure that appears to be Don Juan is wooing them. This is a rather interesting opening because when you first look at it, if you knew nothing about this production, you would say, that's Don Juan. That's our main character doing that. But you don't see him. The person that's really doing that is an imposter who wants to be like Don Juan, but just isn't. Don Juan, on the other hand, is just at his house trying to relax and trying to stick to a strict diet that his manager, played by Melville Cooper, is forcing him to stick to. If that wasn't enough, he has to deal with Doña Dolores, who is the only woman that has known him for a substantial amount of time, and is willing to pay off his debt and put him in prison to convince him that she is the only woman for him. Now, there are other characters in this film. We have Merle Oberon playing a dancer who gets Don Juan to appear in her nightclub so that way she can get all the publicity. Now, this is almost an ironic performance by Douglas Fairbanks because at this point, he really wasn't making a lot of movies. He wasn't the romantic swashbuckler he used to be, and his voice sounded quite average on sound. Now, I'm not saying his voice is bad. To me, it sounds perfectly fine, but just not for the type of films he was used to doing in the 20s, like Black Pirate, Thief of Baghdad, or, Mark of Zorro. He couldn't do those types of films anymore with that voice at that time. And this is ironic as his last screen appearance because this is a character who is very romantic. I mean, but I'm not saying he was very romantic in his films, but as a character who is fading away, like Don Juan in this film, it's kind of interesting that Douglas Fairbanks took this part up. Also, Alexander Korda is directing this production, so usually when Alexander Korda's name is on a product, you can trust it. And he directed this film himself. And the set design is also by Vincent Korda, who is rather a good set designer. Did a lot of good sets in his day. Other notable performances, I like Melville Cooper as Leporello, who is basically Don Juan's financial advisor, confidant, overall general manager, who gets him into contact with people for publicity, gets him ways of getting money. And he's a great character because it's interesting. I might be overanalyzing this, but there's a character in the film called Doña Dolores, who is a really funny character. And as I said earlier, she's the only woman who knew Don Juan for more than a day or so. She's known him for over a year. And she wants to be with him. He doesn't want anything to do with her. But Leporello is always trying to get him to connect with her because she's going to have money. Now, it's not just for Don Juan's benefit, it's for his own benefit. Because when you think about it, what else has Leporello done with his life? I mean, manage Don Juan, and for some people, Don Juan's either a legend or a disgrace, because if you're a dull husband, you hate Don Juan. You hate him with a burning passion. And if you're a cynic, then you think, oh, Don Juan's fake. So how could Leporello get another job after Don Juan and make money? That I don't know, when I thought of that, I was able to enjoy this film much more with his conversations with Doña Dolores and Melville Cooper. Now, Merle Oberon's also turns in a great performance. She's a dancer who wants publicity. In this film, she's a 19-year-old dancer. The fake Don Juan met up with another dancer, and that dancer's getting more publicity than Merle Oberon is. And this is upsetting her because the other woman is quote-unquote old. She's like, she makes the comment, oh, she's at least 26. And her character, I think, is like 19 or something, or so she says. The film makes an interesting message that it sucks to be old in a profession where you need to be young. Like Don Juan, for instance. Don Juan is not young anymore. He's old, he's tired, and he has a doctor telling him to reduce the amount of balconies he climbs, which is a humorous joke. When you think about it, it's a little ominous because he's not doing what he used to do as often or as frequent. Doctors tell him you should do only, like, go from, 1 balcony today to, like, 4 balconies a week, then 2 balconies a week, and then pretty soon you won't be doing any balconies. And he's sticking to a very strict diet to keep his figure in shape, and it's very painful for him to do that. And that's why he's telling him, look, I'm going to fire the chef if you don't cook to my specifications. And you have Merle Oberon, who's interesting because she needs publicity, and so does the other dancer. And the other dancer is only slightly older, and Merle Oberon's saying, oh, she's really old. Which, that's kind of today's position where we have certain celebrities that when they get to something like their late 30s or early 40s, they're like, oh, nope, they don't look good anymore, they're too old, stand back. And it's really sad when you think about that. It's just perplexing. Other silent references to this film, well, Gibson Gowland's in this film. He plays a character, I believe Don Alfredo, who kills the Don Juan imposter. If you don't know who Gibson Gowland is, well, he was McTeague in the 1924 film directed by Erich von Stroheim, Greed. And he was also Simon Bouquet in the 1925 Lon Chaney film, The Phantom of the Opera. So he's been around. Later on in the film, there's a funeral for Don Juan because the imposter is killed by Gibson Gowland. And this gives Don Juan a chance to rest and relax and stay away from things for a while. But he gets tired of doing that, and he wants to prove to people that he's Don Juan, but nobody believes him. It's really quite funny. Nobody believes him when he says, I am Don Juan. And it's like, no, you're not. You're not Don Juan. They believe that the guy who died was Don Juan. There's also a point in the film where there's a play made about Don Juan, and Don Juan finds out about it and wants to prove that he is Don Juan, but nobody believes him. They believe that the imposter that died was Don Juan, and Don Juan has a hard time accepting that. You can find the private life of Don Juan through the Eclipse box set Alexander Korda's Private Lives, available through the Criterion Collection. This film marks Douglas Fairbanks' last leading role. He would make another screen appearance, but I don't count that because he's playing as himself. Realistically, this is his last performance as a character of some sort. 5 years later, in 1939, he would die of a heart attack at the age of 56, and the world would lose Douglas Fairbanks. Perhaps the world's greatest swashbuckler and one of silent cinema's most entertaining figures. I'll see you on Silent Film Saturday when I review the 1926 production of The Black Pirate, also starring Douglas Fairbanks Sr. Till then, I'll see you later.